What's up, everybody? Brian Smith here talking a little bit of SEC football with all the discussion that's going around in regards to the college football playoffs, the rebranding of the SEC, the scheduling, etc. I wanted to pinpoint just one thing out of this. Everybody's got their opinion on which teams should have played in keeping the rivalries. That's fine. I'll talk about that in some capacity fairly soon. But right now, I just want to talk about the games that have been scheduled for the SEC out of conference for 224. This is not going to be easy for a couple of teams. Oklahoma, I think in particular, is in a tough spot. They have two games. I'll go ahead and give a little nudge here on what's coming up. They have two games they still have to schedule out of conference. That's hard when it's only a year out because for people that don't know, scheduling is usually done like 5 years conservatively in advance. There's just not many options. And I'm sure they're not trying to go out and schedule quite like Florida did. And I'll get into this with Florida in a minute. Their schedule's crazy out of conference next year. But there's a sense that Oklahoma, from what I know about scheduling historically, is going to have a tough spot. And there's a few others here on my list. So I'm just going to go down the list. I'm going to start with Texas and Oklahoma. They're the newcomers. I'm just going to talk about them. Give credit to Texas. And this game was probably set up years ago. They're going to Michigan. In my lifetime, they haven't played at Michigan. Now, they played in the Rose Bowl and stuff, but they haven't played at Michigan, to my knowledge. I certainly don't remember it. So Texas has got one more game they've got to schedule out of conference, but they do have Michigan. I believe it's September 7th. So the first primary weekend, there's some teams, SEC and otherwise, that are playing August 31st, kind of that week zero kind of deal. But to play Texas, good for Michigan. To play Michigan, good for Texas, good for all of us as fans. I'm excited about that. Oklahoma, they have a very weird two games scheduled. And this is what I mean by that. If you'd have told me 3 years ago they're playing Tulane, I would have said to you, who cares? It's Tulane. But Tulane's good. Their coaching staff's done a great job. They've got an NFL quarterback in waiting this year. Tulane won't have that kid in 24. But they've still got the foundation set. They've gotten some better players, and they're just coached so well. They also, I believe, they got Temple, a team that you just don't know what you're going to get year to year. So keep that in mind. That's kind of interesting. The most oddball thing from all the SEC schools, 24 schedule, the LA schools are both, not one or the other, USC and UCLA will play the Bayou Bengals. LSU opens with USC in Las Vegas. And then a few weeks later, they host them in Death Valley on 21st of September. That's UCLA. I don't know how that happened. It's just an odd occurrence. But here's the other oddball thing. Those teams are no longer going to be Pac-12 teams. They're going to be Big Ten teams, even though they're from Los Angeles. I'm always going to struggle with that. The Battle of LA, those two teams are obviously rivals. Pac-12 has always had them, so whatever. It's just interesting. Texas A&M, they didn't jack around with their schedule in terms of getting a big boy and coming right out of the gate. First game of the year, they play Notre Dame. And if you're playing Notre Dame first week, Notre Dame's a top 10 program. You got to give them credit. Their other out-of-conference games may not be the greatest, but if you're playing Notre Dame, you're putting in the effort to play somebody out of conference, and you knew you were in the SEC, so good for the Aggies, good for the Irish, good for the fans once again. Now, here's the one that, and I love out of conference. This is great for me, but what are you doing? I'm not sure if there's a more difficult slate next year in all of college football, SEC, Big Ten, Pac-12, whatever you want to say. In 24, here are three of the out-of-conference games for the Florida Gators. They open with Miami at home. It's in the Swamp, but they open with Miami. On the 5th of October, they'll play UCF, and then on the last weekend, like they usually do, they will play Florida State. All in-state rivals. It's cool. It's great. I want to try to go to every one of those if I can. I live here in Florida, so that's great for me. But like Miami's on an uptick. Those two schools don't like each other. It's going to be interesting. Florida State and Miami, they neither one of them like Florida, none of them like the other ones. Blah blah blah. The weird one here is UCF. They've got an odd hatred with Florida and vice versa. They're going to the Swamp. That game means everything to UCF. I feel like it's almost like, even though UCF is in the Power 5 starting this year in the Big 12, they're going to be at a complete advantage emotionally because they gain everything by winning. But Florida, I don't think fans respect UCF anywhere near where they should. And by then, probably Timmy McClain will be behind center. That's going to be a really tough situation for Florida. Who's Florida's quarterback going to be? We don't even know this year, let alone next. That game scares me for Florida. Their schedule, again, I don't really understand it. Arkansas has a unique out-of-conference schedule as well. They go to Oklahoma State, which is cool. That's a border rivalry kind of deal. They don't play enough. I wish they did. Oklahoma State will play them or host them on the 7th of September in 2024. They also have UAB and Louisiana Tech. Trent Dilfer, guy I know, he was with the Elite 11 for a while, is now UAB's head coach. That program will probably get rolling. Louisiana Tech always has players. They always have players. Some of those backwoods kids in East Texas and South Louisiana, North Louisiana, they're going to have more players than people think. Just wanted to mention that. Arkansas plays them as well. How about Georgia? Opening the year, August 31st, 2024, Clemson. I didn't even mark down where the game was because I don't care. I don't care. It's just that they're playing. When I was a kid, that was one of the games early in the year that you looked forward to. It was a heck of a ball game. Good for Clemson, good for Georgia, and again, good for us as fans. Auburn. I don't have any idea what they'll have, but they play Cal. They go to Cal this year. Next year, Cal comes to them. At least that's their one game. It's okay. They still need to add another out-of-conference game as well. Got a couple easier ones. Alabama has one of the more interesting out-of-area games in 2024. They go to Madison. They go play the Badgers. That's cool, man. Jump around, the whole deal with the in-between game or in-between quarters, third to fourth quarter. I've always wanted to see that. I can only imagine what ticket prices will be for Alabama at Wisconsin. They will not be friendly. I'm quite sure of that. They also play USF, kind of an interesting home game. I'm not sure why that game is in there, but they do. Tennessee plays a neutral site game out of conference in Charlotte, so I assume that's obviously going to be where the Panthers play. I'm not sure why more teams don't do this. This is pretty cool. They're playing NC State. NC State's a program that's consistently been pretty good. They're not dominant, but it's a good opening game. Good for Tennessee. I'm glad to see them. Again, another game kind of like the Arkansas-Oklahoma State matchup. They're right next to each other. Why not? Missouri. This one is the definition of not close to each other in any way, shape, or form. Missouri plays Boston College on September 14, 2024. Kentucky has one of the more traditional basic out-of-conference schedules, Akron, Ohio, Murray State, but they do play in-state rival and heated rival Louisville as well. South Carolina, not very exciting. Wofford, Old Dominion, and Akron, and then, of course, they play their crossover against Clemson. That game's tremendous. Obviously, this last year was a great game. Vanderbilt, give them some credit. Virginia Tech opens the season, and that game's on August 31st, and they also play SMU. So, yeah, I just wanted to discuss some of the bigger points with scheduling, because this is the main point here. When you change conferences, you have your numbers set up for out of conference, like Oklahoma and Texas did, where they were playing differently with 9 games. So now they're scrambling to try to find another game because they thought they were going to go to 9. At least a lot of people did, and they ended up going with 8, at least for the first year. In 2020, and 25 and on, there is no note of anything definitive of what the SEC is going to do. So what do we think? Should we hold Oklahoma accountable if they schedule 2 patsies for the 2 games they still have? I'm not. I know that there's no way that you can just pick what you want because most of the teams are already done. They might be able to get like a MAC or a Sun Belt or something, but that might be hard. Not only do you need a team to have a game available, it's got to be the right weekend. This is a lot of math coming together. This late in it, when you're trying to schedule games 10, 15 years ahead, like sometimes like Notre Dame, Michigan will have games over 10 years ahead. Sometimes teams like the Alabama-Wisconsin game, I'll bet you that's at least a half dozen years ahead they scheduled that, conservatively. That's just how this stuff works. There's not going to be a lot of room. But it is fascinating. So anyway, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share this podcast, and most importantly, comment on this. This is one of those cool things. There's no right or wrong answer, just your opinion. What do you think about the SEC going to the 8-game schedule, at least for a year? If you want to talk about that, that's fine. That's a big topic right now. I'm trying to stay away from that. But more importantly, what do you think of the SEC having a schedule where it gives these teams a little more flexibility, at least for the year, to play somebody out of conference that's maybe way out? Think again, SC and UCLA for LSU, Wisconsin for Alabama, Missouri's playing Boston College. These are good things for college football. Michigan is playing Texas. Notre Dame's playing Texas A&M outside your own region in addition to outside of your own conference. That is cool. So I'm really a big fan. But find me on Twitter at FBScout_Florida. And please, everybody, have a great day. Thank you very much.